Hi there, I'm Kiki from Meal Garden, and I'm here with Tina, one of our nutritionists at Meal Garden, and we are here with a very special guest, Dr. Orlena Kerek.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Lovely that you're here with us. So Dr. Orlena is a pediatrician and a mother of four, and you're also the author of two wonderful books, and they both have really long titles, so I wrote them down.
I know.
But they're great titles, so I am going to read them out. The first one is Crunch, Put a Stop to Picky Eating and Help Your Kids Love Veggies. And the second one is Feeding Toddlers, a Pediatrician's Guide to Happy and Healthy Mealtimes. And so Dr. Orlena is also a meal expert on Meal Garden, and she's got loads of her recipes on there. And the reason why we both want to talk to her today is about introducing new foods to your kids. So just to jump straight in there, what's one of the biggest misconceptions out there when it comes to introducing new foods?
Well, I think that parents have this idea that they can make children like something, and you can't. You're not in control of what children like, and actually, people think that they can force their children to eat something as well, which obviously they can do, but it's always going to have a negative consequence if you force children. And actually, when you look at how children and adults like new things, so both adults and children take a while to get to like new foods. And you know, when kids, you try a new food and you spend hours preparing your new food, and then you place it in front of the kids, and they go yuck, and you say, "What do you mean yuck? You haven't even tried it."
Exactly.
It is so frustrating. It is really frustrating. But that really, I think, is, to me, it's the crux of the matter, because people go, you don't know you don't like it. But there's this misconception. What children mean when they say, I don't like it, is they mean, I don't know it and I'm scared of it. Mm-hmm. And it takes 10 to 15 times of trying a food willingly before you actually decide whether you like it or you don't like it. Yeah. So that means that at the end of 15 times, you may decide that you don't actually like that food.
Yeah.
And then you can talk about that willingly bit as well, because when you're scared of new foods, you aren't going to try that new food. So you know what? That 15 times can take several years. Yeah. If you're just going to say, I'm not going to pressurize my kids, and parents just don't realize that. Yeah. They think that there is some magic way to make, and there are lots of different ways that you can encourage them and make them want to try that food. But the bottom line is, you cannot force your children to like food.
Yeah.
So you have to be patient. You have to be patient. My number one piece of advice to parents is this. When you prepare food, new food, don't rely on it. And don't expect your children to eat it. Don't expect them to like it. Don't even expect them to taste it. Because when we look at when you try a new food, and parents are so desperate for their children to like new foods, to try that new food. And there's all these emotions going on, and it really easily becomes a battle of will, because that parent so desperately wants their child to try the new food. Then they get cross and frustrated when it doesn't happen, and then the child retaliates and goes, I don't want to try that new food, I don't like it, and it just goes back and forwards and back and forwards. Whereas if that parent knows that the child isn't going to try that new food, then they just go, well, it doesn't matter, I'm not expecting them to try that new food, and then there's just no battle. That's it.
So then should they have a backup plan ready then? Like, should they have a backup meal in order to take off the stress?
It'll be interesting to see what Tina says about this. So I'll tell you what it's different for different people, actually, and I think it does really depend where you are with your kids. So first of all, I say, don't rely on your new food, because I remember this one story when a few years ago, this was before I was writing about healthy eating, and I had I've got four children, so they're now 8, 6, and twins who are 4. So the twins must have been babies because they weren't eating. So I had, say, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I spent hours preparing this new food. Not hours, it felt like hours, you know.
Oh, I love
Days. Fermenting it. Sprouting it.
Yeah, hours now. Now, I made this new food. And I was so intent on making this new food. And I tried to use foods that they like carrots and things like that. And I remember taking it out, and it was springtime. So we were sitting in the back of the garden because we get the sun there.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
And,
it already sounds like a dream.
We're on our way.
We live in the Mediterranean. But so anyhow, I served this food, and then I put it down, and what happens? The kids cry, yuck, yuck, and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. But I had no other food. I hadn't thought, what will happen if my children don't eat that meal? And it was the entire meal. You know, like when you make a pasta with sauce or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a meal in itself.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything at all. Now, if I did that again and I was to make a new meal, which is an entire meal, what I do now is make sure I have a healthy dessert for afterwards. Because if I have something that I know that my children aren't going to eat, and you get to know what foods your kids will eat and what foods your kids won't eat. So if I know, right, I want to try something new, because sometimes meals are meals, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't just say, oh, well, it's a new vegetable and it's on the side.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the whole dish.
Yeah.
And so if I've got something like that I want to try, then I'll make sure I've got a healthy dessert, like apple crumble is our easiest. And it's just baked apples. Mm-hmm. I don't put any added sugar in it. Mm-hmm. And it's got, flour and butter on top or something like that. But so if you look at that, nutritionally, that's got all the nutrients that those children need, and it offers them everything. So it doesn't matter whether your children are eating savoury food or sweet food. Like, okay, I'm not talking about giving them cakes and biscuits for dinner, but if you're giving them fruit, that's fine. And if we look at what we are aiming, I think another big misconception is people don't actually understand what a healthy diet is. And actually, it's really easy. And I love your American way of doing it, because you have the My Plate thing, and I think that's fabulous. In the UK, we do it slightly differently. But essentially, if you break it down to proportions, so half of what you eat should be fruit and vegetables, with a little bit more vegetables. Well, you know what? Kids don't eat as many vegetables as they should do. But it doesn't matter, as long as you keep presenting them with those vegetables, because childhood's like a training ground for when they become adults. And when they become adults, you want them to eat more vegetables. There are some people who eat more fruits than vegetables, but, I think that's getting a bit nitpicky, isn't it? The idea is that, we know what a healthy diet is. It's more fruit and vegetables and less, you call them potato chips, we call them crisps. And cookies and all that packaged food. So more fruit, more vegetables, less of the packets, and you're doing really well, I think. And I can see Tina nodding. What do you think, Tina?
No, I think, as long as you're going to get them to eat something, then I think, that's the most important thing. Then you don't want them to not eat anything at all, but as long as they get like a piece of the fruit or even a piece of the vegetable, that they're kind of getting something, and if it's nutritious, then kind of like a peace of mind as a parent too, that that they're getting something in there too. And I often tell some parents too that if you're wanting to introduce something new, maybe put an older food that they love with like the new food kind of beside each other, and so maybe they're like, okay, like I'll give it a shot, it's beside something I like, maybe they're good together.
With the dessert thing, though,
that thing called seed pairing, which works really, really well. I've been just revamping some articles on my post, actually. And so if you take two foods, they've done tests on this, actually. I think they did it with celery and cream cheese.
Ants on a log.
And so they basically looked at how celery isn't something kids naturally like, but when they offered them the celery with the cream cheese, which kids did like. These kids liked cream cheese. Obviously, it doesn't work if you don't like cream cheese. But they were more likely to eat cream cheese, to eat the celery with the cream cheese. And I think if you go back to that idea that children have this hump of, you have to try this thing 10 to 15 times. So when you're introducing foods, the idea is not to get them to like it, but to get them to to get hump. And there are lots of different things that you can do to get them over that hump, as long as you don't pressure them into eating. And, I think there's lots and lots of evidence now that shows that once you pressurize kids, you're just, you're going down this steep slope of it's not going to work. And, for me, I think there are 3 good reasons why I don't pressure my kids to eat. And having said I don't pressure my kids to eat, it is really, really, really difficult not to pressure your kids to eat, because we're all human and we've all spent forever cooking dinner. We've provided, this nutritious meal, and we have this idea that our kids need to eat. And it's really difficult to say, it's fine, I trust that you, even me, as a doctor, I know what the kids eat. I still have this idea that they need to eat that meal that is put in front of them. And part of what I do is pay attention to that all the time, and have to sort of bite my tongue and go, you choose, it's up to you. So yeah, I think going back to that 10, 15 times, there are different ways that you can do that. And one of the things you were asking was about whether you have a backup plan. So there are different ways of going about that. And I think the first thing you need to decide before you decide what your backup plan is. So I look at the nutrition needs of the child right now. So are they getting everything that they need to grow, which is obviously very, very important. And the majority of children are, but you have to be happy that they are. And then looking at the long term. So for example, my twins are now 4. But they're still in that kind of toddler age group, where they shout and scream. And
sounds delightful.
And they eat very erratically. So, we have this idea that children need to eat that meal. So when we talked about half fruit and vegetables, and then a bit of protein, and you guys talk about grains, we talk about carbohydrates, but it's all the same, But children don't often do that with it. Now, ideally, you want to present them that every time you offer them food, but children don't eat that, but they might eat it in, say, a day. So my toddler, like in the summer, he loves watermelon, so he will eat. We have giant watermelon.
We just had some
now. Yeah, we were just eating watermelon.
You think, look at you, it's not summer here yet, it's not here yet. So he'll eat,
we're eating out of
watermelon.
season, don't tell.
I know.
And then he will eat bread and chickpeas, which are something that he loves, and they're a source of protein.
Yeah.
So if I look at his diet throughout a day, he's getting everything that he needs from each nutritional group, and he's growing fine. So I'm not worried about if he eats a wee bit more bread or, doesn't. So that's kind of different from a child who isn't meeting all their nutritional needs, and then they have to think about that. But going back to that question, so what do you do when your child doesn't eat dinner? Now, it does kind of depend where you are. So, for example, with my child, who I am happy is getting all his meals, all his nutrients, he likes to eat crust. His particular thing is crust, which is basically bread, the crust of the bread. And if he doesn't like his meal, he will just get down and go and get a crust of bread. We make our own bread, so it's nice bread. It's not what I call plastic bread.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Much
better.
I'm sure I shouldn't say, but you can get plastic bread in a packet, but we bake up, we have a machine and we just break it. So it's often whole grain, so it's reasonably nutritious, and he'll eat that and an apple. And I just think, well, if that's what you're happy with, then that's fine, and it doesn't matter. If you prefer that to, whatever it is I've made, he doesn't want it, then that's not a problem. So there are different ways of thinking about. The other thing is, if you have a backup meal, you want that backup meal to be something plain, like a crust and an apple, because you don't want it to be like chocolate cookies, where they're going, clearly I'm not going to eat this because I want the chocolate cookies.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? It can't be something more desirable. It has to be something acceptable, but not amazing, because otherwise everyone will go, I don't want to eat that.
Yeah, that's what I worry about when you mentioned, I'll have like an apple crisp or something for like a healthier dessert. I would worry, like as a mom, I would think, are they just going to always bail on dinner because I've got like a nice fruit crumble ready for them?
Yeah, no, I mean entirely. And well, in one way, doesn't really matter. As long as if your dessert is healthy and your kids want that healthy dessert, then that's fine. It's when you start relying on desserts which are more processed, then it becomes a problem. And I would, if you normally offer your kids dessert and it's part of what you've decided your child can have in that day, then that's no problem. If they don't eat their main course, then they should be allowed their dessert. Now, for us, I got so fed up of my kids not eating what I cooked that I went, well, we're not having dessert. And actually, children don't have to have dessert.
I was just going to ask, what are your thoughts on dessert? Like, should it just be a once a week thing? Is it okay to have dessert at the end of every dinner? Like, should there be a regimen around that? What are your thoughts on dessert?
I think what we need to do is go back one step. So what I say for kids, and now it does depend on the age of your kids, but particularly young kids. So I do a lot of work with toddlers. And toddlers, up to like the age of 4. But so they can't go for long periods of time without having food. If you have ever met a child who hasn't had food for a long time, you will understand exactly why they can't go, because they shout, they scream, and they just cannot cope with anything. So they do need to be offered food at regular intervals, which it's not rocket science, So for us, we have breakfast, and then my kids go to school. We have 2 days in one day. So they do morning school and afternoon school. So they do breakfast, morning snack, then they come home for school for lunch, but like you guys, they might take a packed lunch, and then have an afternoon snack and dinner. Like, it doesn't matter exactly the routine, but roughly you're aiming for 3 meals and 2 mini meals or snacks. And if your kids are doing sports or after school activities, you might add in an extra snack, but that's fine. But so then you look at what your children are having throughout that day, and then you've got this time for eating and this time for eating and this time for eating, and this is the time when you decide what food you're offering. So you're like, of course we want to give kids choices, but reasonable choices. I mean, they don't get free rein to say, oh yeah, I want chocolate biscuits for every meal, because clearly that's not a balanced diet. So then what they're going to be offered for breakfast, snack, lunch and dinner, and they know, they understand that that's eating time. Now, there may be times when they actually genuinely are hungry a little bit before that, then they can have some fruit. But generally, once they get used to that pattern, they know when the next meal time is going to be. So, and then you get to say, okay, well, so one snack can be a treat. Like, you can have a chocolate cookie in that snack, or something which is dessert-like. So when do you have your treat? Do you have it for dessert, or do you have it? So we changed, and what we were doing was having fruit and yogurt, which my kids like, which is actually healthy in itself anyhow. But instead of having it for dessert, because then they would go, I don't want my pasta and vegetables, I want dessert. So we just moved it forward. So we said, okay, we're not having dessert, but then they get their snack, which is the same. It's the dessert before they go back to school at 3 o'clock. So it's just how you spread it out, really. But we call it, you know what I mean? It's whether you call it dessert or snack, it doesn't make any difference, does it?
Totally. Makes sense. And something that you mentioned before about the, celery and cream cheese thing, that kind of reminds me of with adults, how, you can kind of, I read an article the other day about how at restaurants you can get a salad and it's really more unhealthy than some of the other dishes, but people like go for the salad because they're like, oh look, I'm eating a salad. But if you've thrown like cheese in it and it's like a ranch dressing and it's croutons, then it's kind of like you're not even eating something healthy. So what are your thoughts on, those food pairings? If it's like, if my kid is only going to eat celery sticks, if I throw on like, full fat cream cheese, like, is that really a win, or should I just avoid the celery thing?
I think kids who don't have, I think basically kids should be eating full fat products.
Yes, agreed.
And
agreed.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, zero fat is like not even real food. But
I give my kids, and I eat it as well, like full fat. So it's like 10% Greek yogurt and full fat milk, because I think fat is good for us, like a small amount. I know there are diets now. I saw that you did the ketogenic diet. anything. I'm not quite sure I would like that, but
yeah, I didn't. Oh god, don't get me started.
You'll have to tell me about it another time because I'm interested to know. But a bit of fat is good because it helps you feel full up.
Yeah.
And your body does need fat, and children do need fat. What they don't need is lots of sugar and refined carbohydrates. So we talk about carbohydrates and we talk about grains, and there are different qualities of grains and carbohydrates. And I think one of the things that we've seen in the past is that children and adults, so if we look at obesity rates, they're going up and up and up in adults and in children. And I went to a conference last year in the UK, and they were saying, I can't remember the figure now, but it was shocking. It was like 10 to 20% of toddlers in the UK are overweight because people are getting bigger portion sizes, and because they are eating the wrong foods. And it's those biscuits, those cakes, those cookies that come in packets, and they are very, very refined, which is different from, so pasta is a carbohydrate as well. But when you cook pasta with vegetables and things like that, it's a different kind, it comes with different things.
Exactly.
It's not the same.
I'm so happy that you mentioned specifically the pasta example, because in Meal Garden, when you put in a pasta recipe, as long as there's other things involved like vegetables and stuff like that, it'll come out as a full green health rating. And we've actually had users email in and be like, I'm confused at your health rating. Like, my pasta recipes are coming out as a green leaf. Like, I don't know why that would be. Like, isn't pasta unhealthy? Like, I've thought my whole life that pasta's unhealthy. It's really not. If you have pasta, like, especially like a homemade or just a plain pasta, and you make your own sauce, that's a perfectly healthy meal.
And it's so easy as well, and kids love it. And the other thing is that, kids, they need energy. And I know that there's lots of people are doing paleo, and I personally don't do paleo. I can understand why some people want to do paleo.
Yeah.
But I don't think, and gluten-free diets as well.
Yeah.
Now, for children, I don't think you should be doing gluten-free diets unless you have been advised to do so from a doctor, because some children do need to have gluten-free diets because they have celiac disease, and that's an allergy to it. And those children, they have to have a gluten-free diet. But you shouldn't put your children on a gluten-free diet because you just want to try it out and see it.
Yeah.
Children need to have energy. They do so much running around. And, have you seen children are either sat in front of the television, which is not great, or they have an on and off button, and that's it. And then they're charging around, and they need energy. And that energy is basically carbohydrates. And you want good forms of carbohydrates like pasta and potato, home-cooked potatoes, not potato chips that come fried in not nice oils.
Unmentionables.
Or homemade cakes. So, cake isn't bad in itself. It's when you live off only cake, and that cake is processed cake that doesn't have all those nice nutrients that is homemade cake.
Definitely.
So it's like getting the balance right, I think.
I think a lot of the gluten-free products too, they're not necessarily healthy for you. I think parents think they are because they see that gluten-free, but then they're adding all these fillers and things to make up for that taste. So, but then they're getting extra sugar, then extra anything else, and making it worse for them.
It's one of those, like, my children don't get sweets that often, candy, you call it. And they went to a party the other day, and they came back, and so these sweets, they come in packets, and it says gluten-free, and you're like, yeah, it's gluten-free because it's just pure sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
Gluten-free. It's got sugar and colouring in it. And that's it.
But no gluten,
they
and
just
it's
slap
vegan.
the name on there.
So it's healthy.
Fat-free. It's totally fat-free. But,
one thing that I do want to mention before we wrap up, because I want to get your take on it, hiding like good foods in foods. I see it a lot in our recipes in Meal Garden. Some of our experts will have those, like muffins with sneaky greens or like hidden greens, and a lot of people talk about like pureeing foods and sneaking those in. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so basically it's not something I do at home. I think it's not a long-term strategy. It's not something that you can rely on. The way I feed my kids and my family is we just have really, really simple food. So, we live in the Mediterranean. We have lots of vegetables. We just cook them like tomatoes and just cook them simply. And, okay, so there are some recipes that the foods aren't hidden, but like when you make soup, it's not obvious that what's in that soup. And you know, if you present a child with an entire aubergine, eggplant, it's like translating.
I know them because my mom is British, but yeah, for everyone else, yeah, you do need to translate.
They aren't going to, you know, if you give them big lumps, they aren't going to like that. But they don't have to eat aubergine, eggplant. You can just say you can pick it out.
Yeah.
So the long-term goal is that you want to teach your children to like and enjoy these vegetables. But until the age of 8, they are going to have this, I'm scared of new foods. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. Well, there are things, but that developmental thing, they grow out of that by the time they're 8.
Yeah.
Having said that, it goes back to, are you happy with the diet that your child has? So if the only way you can get vegetables into your child is to hide them, then that is one strategy. But I would say you need to be doing it alongside of constantly presenting them with the recognizable vegetable, because otherwise they will grow up not knowing what that is. And, you know, I've met people, those little pouches that I know that have the purees in them. And I know that they are really convenient, but I've met people whose children are like, I have to confess, it was my sister.
Hopefully she's watched this video. Yeah.
I don't think she watched. At one point, she got to the stage where she was like, I'm kind of thinking of putting the stuff back into, like, you know, she would give her fresh fruit and vegetables, but she wouldn't eat them. She was thinking, I'm going to puree it and put it back in the pouch so that she'll eat it.
Oh,
and you think, hang on a minute, it's, you know, and they often put apple, not all of them, but often they put apple puree with those vegetable pouches. So they sweeten it, which is fine if you're trying to get it over those 15 bumps. Because, so for example, we have peaches here in the summer. And I baked peaches, and a really simple recipe. You just put them in the oven with a bit of water, a bit of vanilla. And when I first did it, I did it with a sprinkling of sugar, because I thought my kids, you know, they don't really know peaches, let's try it. And they absolutely loved it because it was so sweet. And now I make it without the sugar, because they know that food and they love them. And I don't have to put any sugar in it because it's an accepted food. Yeah. So, you know, I think going back to the hiding vegetables, I can understand why people do it, but I think you have to be careful and not rely on it. Yeah. Be relying on it. The other thing is, you put young children under the age of 1, and there's now this question about baby-led weaning and purees. Now, as far as I'm aware, baby-led weaning is great because it helps children be in control of the food that they eat, which I think children should be in control of the food that they eat. But there's no evidence to say that purees in themselves are bad. So you can introduce solids to a baby with pureed food as long as you also introduce finger food, so give them control. Let them have control and also give them breadsticks and whatever things that they can grasp. That's fine. But if you only give them puree and you miss that opportunity to give them lumps, then you will end up with children who are like, what are these lumps? I can't eat lumpy food, because you've missed that opportunity to introduce it.
Definitely.
So it's just getting the balance right in everything, I think.
Yeah. And I think really the main takeaway for me that I've learned, not that I have kids, but now I feel like I'm totally ready. But I think the main takeaway that really resonated with me was the fact that you just can't pressure kids into doing it. And it kind of reminds me of myself with my mom, thinking back when I was a child. And because now she'll always make fun of me because I'm so healthy, and she'll be like, oh my goodness, like I remember when I tried to get you to eat the whole grain bread instead of the white, and now, you know, God forbid you even touch bread. But it's just funny because it's so true. As a kid, because it wasn't so far ago, I'm only 23, I can remember like that pressure and that feeling like, oh, I have to eat this. Like, no, I don't want to. I want to eat the white bread. Like, why does my mom buy this crap, you know? But if it was presented in a different way, where it was just like, oh, you could have this one or that one. I am a perfectionist. I was even a perfectionist as a child. I think I probably might have had a higher chance of just being like, maybe I'll try the brown bread.
Me too.
If you're more in control of it yourself, you can kind of make that decision and feel like a big kid rather than.
It's really interesting, and people. I have an article on my site, and it's basically talking about the one bite rule and how I basically say the one bite rule. When people say, "Oh, can you try one bite? Can you have a polite bite?"
Yeah.
And it basically says, don't pressurize your children. Say, the phrase is, you don't have to eat it. And people get really, really upset. The amount of comments I've had on that post. Because people think that they should be in control of their kids' diet. And they get upset about this idea of choices, which I think they kind of misunderstand. Because the idea isn't that you just give them free rein. The idea is that you give them structured choices.
Yeah.
But there's actually loads of evidence to say pressurizing children is to eat is, and actually beyond food.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work.
Anything.
Yeah. It also makes them anxious too, and their digestive system kind of shuts down, and they're just like, I don't want to even have that. They're not even feeling like they're
metabolize
hungry.
it correctly if they're.
I mean, my 3 reasons. I was going to say this earlier and I didn't, but my 3 reasons are: there's lots of evidence to say it doesn't work, and actually it can lead to negative consequences like eating disorders later on in life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work at the table. And thirdly, it is really stressful, and I just want to have a quiet life. So why bother? Why bother?
Yeah.
And it puts the ball back in there. One of the first things that we learn as babies, when we learn to, how you see babies kicking around and they're like, oh, this is my hand.
Yeah.
And then they realise it's their hand, and then they learn to put it in their mouth. And that's because the first thing people learn is to put food in their mouth. And, they have that mouthing thing. They're like, oh, I'm going to explore the world by putting it in my mouth.
Yeah.
It's the first control that we have over our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And as parents, I know we have to look after our kids, but people want to control their kids. And actually, we want to be teaching them to make those choices for themselves.
Yeah.
Whilst making sure, obviously whilst they're kids, we want to make sure they've got all the nutrients they need, i.e. healthy food. But we can't live their life for them. We have to teach them rather than control them. And I think people get upset about this, and they get upset about that idea as well. I think that's partly why I get so many comments on that post, because people are like, you've really rocked my way of seeing things.
Yeah.
I think I'm in control, and I'm not.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, thank you so much. I've learned so much. To be completely honest with you, I don't have kids, and so I always look forward to chatting with you. And plus, you have such a lovely accent; it's always so entertaining. But I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I really did learn a lot. I don't have kids, but I have a few younger cousins, and I'm gonna go test out all of those strategies on them, and I'll follow up with you. But I really appreciate it.
I think the big one is no pressure, because the minute you take that pressure away, because what people get worried about is that stress at the table and that anxiety, and I think the minute you take that pressure away and you start looking at it and think, okay, it's the long term, not now. This single pea doesn't make any difference. This single pea is not going to make any difference to my child's health. But what will make a difference to my child's health is teaching them healthy habits.
Exactly.
Which they just need to do themselves as they get older.
Yeah.
And so the no pressure just suddenly transforms stress to, okay, when you have toddlers, they do complain about the colour of their bowls, where they're sitting, and all of these things, but not about the actual food.
My niece does that. She's like, she looks at her bowl. We give her a Red Bull, and she makes a face, like she squints, and then we switch the bowl, and she's like, okay. She just goes like,
oh God.
So hey, whatever you're gonna eat, if you want to eat on the table, you can eat on the table. I'll put the food for you there.
Well, just to wrap up, I do want to mention that all of your recipes are in the Meal Garden Healthy Eating Bundle. And I tried your lentil spaghetti bolognese on the weekend, and it was so delicious. It has nutmeg in it, and I was like, hello.
That is an Italian recipe it was an Italian spaghetti bolognese recipe, and I took it and switched it for lentils.
Yeah.
Because I kind of realised I was doing this and thinking, when I made spaghetti bolognese with beef, I put so much effort into following this beautiful recipe, which has milk and nutmeg in, which is strange, but it's from an Italian cookbook.
Yeah.
And then when I made it with lentils and tomato sauce, and it obviously didn't taste very good. And then I thought, but you put so much effort into the meat one, and you don't really want your kids to eat that much meat. You want them to eat the lentils.
Exactly.
And so I just...
That sounds good.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that.
I'm going to send it to you directly. And I'll post the link and I'll send it to anyone who's tuning into this. And for anyone that wants more information from Dr. Orlena Kerek, you can check out her blog, Snotty Noses. Awesome name. And I know that you have some stuff coming up that they can check out there on your website. So thanks so much again. Is there anything else that I'm missing that you want to mention?
No, sorry, did you mention the course? Did you mention the course? I couldn't hear
I
it.
totally didn't. No, are you not listening to our conversation, Orlena?
No, sorry. No, the other thing I am doing at the moment, I've got this course that it's in its pilot stage at the moment, but it's quite exciting, and it is on introducing new foods.
Perfect.
So I'll have the email contacts, and then I can email people about it.
Beautiful. Exactly.
But yeah, we're getting good feedback from it. It's
Wonderful.
quite exciting. We'll see.
Awesome. Honestly, I think I'm going to tune in because
I
I'm
know,
really
me
like,
too.
this is my new hobby now.
I tell you what, though, it is really good to know before you have kids, because, being a pediatric doctor, and you think, about health and stuff like that, and then I found myself faced with these children, and I'm like, okay, so I understand what a healthy diet is, but making them eat it is just not
whole
happening.
different ballgame.
And I think people just don't know. They just don't know.
Definitely. And I think it's useful because it relates to even adults as well. Like, take the pressure off and know that when I feel like I'm dealing with kids all the time because I'm crazy, crazy healthy. So when I get like other people, like for instance, my mom, to eat really insanely healthy food like I do, sometimes she can be hesitant about it. So I just need to take the pressure off and also introduce it to her multiple times in different ways. And know that it's going to take 10 to 15 times.
Look at this
You
one.
know
She's
what I
a
mean?
pro now.
Hello.
Exactly. No, it's so true. I once tried introducing an artichoke to my mother-in-law, and she was very polite,
Yeah.
but she clearly
So
was
not
just
like
like,
my mom then. Yeah.
I don't want to try this. You know what an artichoke is? Yeah, you know.
Oh, yeah. I love artichoke. How did you do it? Just out of curiosity.
Like, what is this? What is this? I'm not going to do it.
Well, thank you so much again, Orlena, and it's a pleasure chatting with you. And I'm sure we will talk again soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.